Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me the OC and quarterback coach for the New Canaan football team. Coach Wynn is with me. Coach, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's great to be able to talk. Whenever I can talk to players or head coaches, it's awesome. But getting the coordinators, getting guys who are in like the trenches per se is really cool to kind of get their thoughts as far as what to come with the season, players, and so on. You and I were just kind of talking a little bit about last year and how awesome of a season it was. But when you look at it from a glass half full perspective with everything you guys have done as far as championships, I almost feel like it's like, all right, 1 or 2 days after that final game when you beat Darien, it was like, all right, now we're on to another. Like you treasure it for a second, you enjoy it for maybe a half hour, and then you're getting ready for the next one.
No, absolutely. The standard at New Canaan is what it is. There's a reason why they're so successful because they're always looking for the next one. The kids understand that. They enjoy it. They enjoy having that target on their back. They enjoy giving something to push forward to. And they also enjoy setting the precedent for classes and the youth kids that are watching on the sidelines on Friday nights to one day hope that that's them. So, there's a torch that's passed on every single year, and the kids really, really like relish that.
Now, when you kind of were able to kind of, enjoy, like once the season was over and you had time to reflect, was there anything from last season that is most memorable for you?
Uh,
Any one
I
moment?
I don't think there's one moment. I think it's just overall, obviously the state championship, that's a big one.
Mm.
But in the way that we kind of got there against Maloney in the semis, it was raining. We really couldn't get anything going in the second half. Right before halftime, we ended up going to our jumbo set and just to get some looks and see how they would line up defensively. And we ended up kind of moving the ball a little bit. So we went into halftime, and I said to Coach Marinelli, and I told the kids in at halftime, we're coming out in jumbo. We start with the ball. We're gonna run it,
Mhm.
And I think we ended up running that entire set for the entire second half. I think we got out of it for a couple plays when we needed a big pass, like with maybe like 45 seconds left, and
Mhm.
then we get up to jump off sides 2 plays in a row, and Tucker Stevens kicks a 42-yard field goal to win the game with no time left. I think just in the way that we got there to the state championship game was pretty special. But it's just an overall collective, just a lot of good moments. Losing to Shelton first game of the year, and then bouncing back. And then just answering the bell every single week with our kids. Um, that's probably what I'll kind of take most away is, kind of the way that the kids responded every single week to every single challenge that we gave them and every single challenge that they saw every week. It was fun to watch those kids go out and compete every Friday night and just kind of execute the game plans that we put together for them.
There's been a lot that's impressed me as far as from afar broadcasting in the NVL, being able to see various teams, either on Twitter, X, wherever you want to call it, or in conversations I have with coaches. But the one thing, being able to see you guys in person against Darien, how sound football you guys play. You never really ever shoot yourselves in the foot. And you're kind of in a lot of ways. And I think the comparison with the Patriots is fair as far as not making mistakes, waiting for the other team to make a mistake and you pounce on it, right? You had the fumble by Darien led to a touchdown. You guys win the game. You talk about the field goal against Maloney, like the little tiny, minute things where field goal kicking I could speak for in the NVL, there's really not a lot of it, right? There's never the extra points, or you see an extra point go in, you're like, wow, we saw an extra point. Awesome, great. But you typically don't see it. So I feel like with New Canaan, those little things, the field goals, the playing clean football, that kind of stuff, like that leads to what you guys have done with the championships and just all the wins.
No, absolutely. Because, when you have an extended period of success, right, it's always hard to kind of find things to motivate kids, right? And so to be successful, you have to worry about the small details in every little thing that you do, right? And whether it's staying behind the line, right? Whether it's having your jersey tucked in, having the right colored socks, every little thing that we can kind of get the kids to really focus in on, we're going to do, right? We make sure the kids dress the same every single pregame. We make sure the kids wear the same undershirt. It's those little things that, the program that we run at New Canaan is very college-like. Right? A lot of our kids go on and play at the next level. So when they go to that next level, they're already ingrained with that like small kind of detail. They stress all of that. They're very aware of those details.
Mhm.
And that's what we want, right? We want those kids to do that because not only right, football is not just played on the field, right? There's lots of life lessons that we really preach to the kids, right? And all those small little details creates discipline within them that they can carry on after they're done playing.
Over the course of the time you've been with New Canaan, right, you've had a multiple amount of weapons to be able to work with. And as a guy who's both the OC and the quarterback coach to be able to work with that, that's got to be, and also having the talent, but also trying to mold, because not every player you've had is a finished product. There's going to be a molding process, especially from the quarterback position. There's always ways to fine tune a quarterback, always, never is a finished product, even going back to when Peyton played at Tennessee, he threw, or not Tennessee, his first year when he came out with the Colts, he threw like 31 picks, right? He was having to improve even then when he was with the Colts. So for you specifically, that's got to be a pretty cool thing to have all of that, but be able to coach that side too.
No, it's fun to see the progression of kids, right? This senior class that we have, they were sophomores when I first got here. So to kind of see somebody like Luke Robinson, progress from where he was a sophomore to what he did last year, now going into his senior year, I'm really excited to kind of see him finish out his high school career. But just to kind of see the progression that they've all made, it's like you said, it's definitely cool to see to be able to see their progression and to kind of work with them because like not every kid's a finished product. They have their dreams, their hopes, their aspirations of playing at the next level. So, my only goal is when I'm finished with them and I hand them off to the next coach, that coach says, okay, your high school coach did a good job with you, right? I don't want to send somebody off that has awful technique, footwork, all that little stuff, right? I want to get them prepared for the next level as much as I can. So when they get there, they have a chance to compete, they have a chance to play.
Are you the kind of coach that is, and I know I've talked to, there was a basketball coach who is now coaching at Naugatuck. He was away for the game for a little bit and now he's back, Coach Mariano, and I'm wishing him the best of luck. He was telling me how when he sees something either on Twitter or on Facebook, he'll take a screenshot of it as far as from, maybe a set, maybe a press defense, whatever it is. He wants to record it and he'll keep notes of it because he wants to try it in practice. Obviously, football is a little bit different. But on the offensive side, the game of football, offense is always evolving in a multitude of ways, right? I remember years ago there was the Wildcat. The Dolphins were like, "Oh, this is the next big thing." Lasted about a year, and now it's basically kaput, right?
Yeah.
Now it's the Philadelphia Eagles and their little tush push, right? And now even they're trying to get that minimized because it's not great for football. I think it's pretty cool. You can't stop it,
Yeah.
keep doing it. But
Absolutely.
for you specifically, right? I mean, as the game's evolving, like that's got to be something like it's got to be like great for the mind, great for the brain, like always trying to improve that too.
No, absolutely. I do see that. I'm blessed with a good group of assistant coaches. My wide receiver coach is Eric Stevens. He's awesome. Coach Marinelli, he'll send me stuff from TikTok all the time. He'll just
Coach has a TikTok. He's got a TikTok.
I don't know if he has a TikTok, but he gets them from TikTok from it somehow, and he sends them to me. I
Ooh.
this
Ooh.
past off season, I even have like my DB's coach Frank Rabasa.
Uh-huh.
He's sending me stuff jokingly. Our linebackers coach, Coach Arkamon, he's sending me stuff. So like they all see cool stuff, right? And then they send it to me, right? And they're like, hey, like try this out. And I'm like, it's really boring for the off season when I know defensive coaches are sending me offensive things to try, you know. But no, like we see stuff every single week, right? Kids see it and they're like, oh, let's try this, right? Like I think last year you saw the trick play in college and the NFL where it's a toss and then it's a reverse to the receiver, and then the receiver tosses it back to the quarterback, and then he hits a wheel route by the tight end. We stole that and we ran that against Brian McMahon and we ran it for a touchdown, So like there's things like that we've taken and we do, right? Like you said, the tush push, right? We obviously have that. But against Wilton, we put in like a fake tush push and we gave it to one of our upbacks and we ran around. Philadelphia Eagles ran that. Coach Stevens texted me, he was like, "Hey, the Eagles just ran our play." So it's like the I think college coaches and NFL coaches say it at the time. I say it all the time, right? Like all of their ideas that they get come from the high school level, right? Because at the high school level, you can be very creative, and when you get to that next level, you can't afford to be that creative because your livelihood is based off of wins and losses. And then when you get to the NFL, it's the exact same thing. So when you get creative things, it's more or less they get it from high school coaches, which is kind of cool to hear, like NFL and Division One coaches say that because kind of that's where the game kind of elevates a little bit, and you see modern day things that you mold things together, and then next thing you know, you see it at the next level. So that's definitely cool to see. But I definitely do that too. I have a little notebook that I jot down things that when I see something, I definitely pause it on the TV and then I go back and I try to find it, and then I find it and I write it down. I'm like, okay, how would I call this in our terminology, right? Is it something far-fetched where it fits in with our scheme, or do I have to just make it a completely different play and it's just in for the week or whatever it is? So, when I'm trying to add new plays in, it's first off, does it fit within our scheme, right? Because if it fits within our scheme, it's a nice little wrinkle to add. But if it's something that's completely something that we don't do, I try not to do that because I try to stick to what we do, stick to what our kids are good at. So there's less thinking for them.
Now you were talking about the trick plays, and I thought of something because I was watching the movie a couple days ago. Have you ever seen The Longest Yard?
Yes.
Okay, so you know the final play, how the convicts were able to win. You know what I'm talking about, where he says,
Hmm.
"I think you're losing your whatever." You know what
Yeah.
play I'm talking about? Is there a
Yes.
possibility that New Canaan could run that one day?
We
Just
don't have no. That's I'm not going to say never, but that hound hasn't been installed yet. We have so many trick plays that we do run, but we just run them just to run them, and just to. I tell our kids to always have in our back pocket, because you never know when we're going to need them.
if that play does happen, I'll be the one to say I mentioned on the podcast, and that's why I went. I'll just say I did, even though I know that's a lie.
Fair enough.
Coach, it's awesome to be able to talk with you as we head into now. I mean, the 19th is when everything gets going. I know it takes a little bit for the pads and the helmets and all that to kind of get going because you got to go through conditioning and such. But the out of season, off season, out of season, whatever they want to call it, has been great in a lot of ways. Obviously, giving, kids time to be kids and go on vacation, or if they play other sports, if they want to go out and do that. I know coaches have been working together with that per school, making sure that schedules are not conflicting with that.
Mhm.
For you specifically, kind of where like this has been like a guinea pig, all you guys are the guinea pigs trying to test this out. Has
Yeah.
it been a learning process to be like, okay, I don't want to do too much, but I also don't want to do too little where it's like I might as well just not even have the guys show up because
No,
then it's not
it's
productive.
it's definitely been a learning curve, kind of like you said, right? It's never been done before. So this year was definitely different, because we have our lifts and workouts in the morning, and sometimes depending on, we have four of our captains are also basketball captains, so they also have basketball practice. So there's days where, hey, they have to go to basketball, so it's like we have to adjust a little bit of what we do because we want to make sure that they can go do that. They have basketball tournaments that they were doing. Some kids go to lacrosse, so it's definitely juggling a little bit. A lot more communication needed amongst coaches, so there is no kind of conflict between schedules.
Mhm.
But you know, I welcome that. Right? It's awesome to be able to work with our kids instead of
Mhm.
having to limit the amount of number of kids that we work with. It's good to have the entire team together, or whether we have just linemen or skill guys. I think it was definitely worthwhile this summer, but definitely some tweaks needed. But I couldn't say bad things about it because I thought it was really productive for our kids.
Dealing with obviously having the kids being in multiple ways, right? And then that, not even to account for the adversity of how the expectations. I know you spoke about that and having that as well. Business like attire, obviously making sure everything is done in a professional way, like being in the pros, being in college, Division One, and so on. And then obviously, let's not forget about you guys are being the hunted. You have not been the hunter too many times. You're always hunted by FCAC teams, no matter what the records are for the
Mhm.
opposing team. So, how do you, and I know this probably is not the kind of where it's going to be a one specific answer, but how do you guys as a program handle that? Because not every, obviously, not every program is like that. You're one of the few in the state of Connecticut.
Um, I think just from what again, this will be my third year at New Canaan. Um, so I'll kind of blend it a little bit, kind of with my past a little bit. It's always just about the process, right? Instead of being so, result oriented, right? We got to focus on the day to days, right? We plan on playing into December, but you can't play into December without focusing on what you're doing today, right? You can't play into December without focusing on what you did in January, right? So that's kind of what we preach to them during the off season, during the season, right? Focus on what we have at stake today, right? Attack that rep in front of you because there's another team, like you said, hunting us down, right? Coach Marinelli says it all the time. Everybody wants to beat New Canaan, and so what we can control is what we do, right? And that's the biggest thing. You said it before. Like we play sound football and we wait for teams to make mistakes, but when we make a mistake ourselves, that's the only team that can beat us, right? And I say it every Monday during our game planning meeting with the kids. I say the only team that can beat New Canaan is New Canaan, right? So when we have 11 guys go out and do 11 things to the best of their ability and play assignment sound, that'll be a successful football play. But when you have one or two guys mess up their assignment, then there's going to be cracks in the armor a little bit. So, consistency and enjoying the process of going to practice and having fun and being able to not think of it as a chore. That's when you have kids that really enjoy football. That's when you have success because, you start worrying about the scores on the scoreboard at the end of games. Nobody enjoys that, right? Obviously, winning is fun, but you got to be able to enjoy the process of it. You got to be able to enjoy going to practice every day. I enjoy going to practice with the kids. I enjoy the guys that I coach with. They make it a lot of fun. Obviously, there's days where I want to pull my hair out, but that's all part of it, right? That's all part of the process because you're never gonna show up and it's gonna be a finished product right away, right? It builds into something, and it's kind of day by day, right? It's day by day, it's brick by brick, it's rep by rep because you got to build into something. You just don't show up and it's a finished product.
If you were to speak to younger Jimmy back in the day, some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we'll say, or however long it was, right? When you first wanted to get into coaching, do you think younger Jimmy would believe what older Jimmy has accomplished thus far? And obviously, you still have many, many more, hopefully, great seasons, regardless of whatever God's path chooses for you. Do you think he would believe you?
Probably not. When I first started in coaching, it was in 2012 in Massachusetts. And in that first year, that was my first year coaching high school football. And we actually ended up winning the state championship that year. And then, I think a couple years later, we got there, we lost, but had a couple of good years there. And then I went to coach college, a couple of places. And then I ended up coaching in New York. We were pretty successful there, won a state championship there, and then I ended up going to New Canaan, won a state championship there.
On a
Last
couple.
year, won a state champ. It's so if I were to tell myself when I first got into coaching that you'd be a part of successful teams, you'd win a couple of state championships, I probably wouldn't believe that because it takes a lot of coaches a long time just to get to one. So I'm lucky to have been a part of a few of them. In a couple of different states, which is kind of cool to say, but like I don't go around like saying, "Hey, I've won this here, I've won that here." It's just kind of a part of my coaching past, but I've taken a little bit of every single team and things that I've learned from every coach with me, and it's kind of made me who I am now.
I mean, I got to admit that that's kind of like a pretty good if game time ever wants to come up with questions for the upcoming season, maybe during if they ever want to kind of get people's brains going. All right, what coach in the state of Connecticut has the most championships in multiple states, right? Or has won championships in multiple states?
Yeah.
I don't think too many people other than people in New Canaan would say you. Seriously.
No, I have a couple of buddies that like joke around with me that say I should kind of make the rounds in New England and be the first one to ever do it. And it's like kind of funny because like I know coaches in Rhode Island, I know coaches in New Hampshire, I know coaches in Vermont, I know coaches in Maine. So I'm like, I'm talking to my wife like, hey, we're gonna live in a an RV for the next couple of years and just live around in different states and until we get a state championship, and then we'll move to the next state.
Well, I can tell you right now, don't go to Maine. It's always snowing. It's always
No,
cold.
yeah, it's cold up there. I know that.
In Vermont too. Vermont's not much better.
Yeah.
We think Connecticut's bad. Farther you
Yeah.
go north, the worse it gets, you
Yeah.
know? But hey, coach, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Best of luck as far as what you and New Canaan have, as far as this upcoming season, and stay in touch. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Always. I wrap things up here on the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. And try to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.